I never studied. I never did anything. I hated it so much. I hated it like powerful hate.
Believe it or not, Eraserhead is my most spiritual film.
What will elaborate on that?
No, I won't.
You want to cut the time down on
What is this with everybody?
No.
What is it? Really?
only me. It's
Why?
my fault.
I'm serious. Fucking A, man. It drives me nuts. Who gives a fucking shit how long a scene is?
David Lynch is one of cinema's most influential filmmakers to date. His experimental surrealist style, unique visions, and groundbreaking contributions to film and television set him apart from most filmmakers. Lynch had his own visions and ways of storytelling that defied the norms of Hollywood. Rather, it is a disturbing tale of a grossly deformed baby, a mother hiring a hitman to kill her daughter's boyfriend, a man being framed for his wife's murder, or America's favorite murder mystery. Lynch had quite the filmography, and one that each film has a solid argument for being his best. So that's what I'm here to do today. Today, I am ranking my favorite director's filmography, from his worst to his best. Of course, this is just my list. If you disagree, that is okay. We all interpret art differently, and you are free to enjoy what others may hate. So if I say I'm not too keen on your favorite Lynch film, please don't shun me. Rather, feel free to tell me your list in the comments below. I am always open for a discussion. Side note, I will only be ranking Lynch's feature films, and will not be including Twin Peaks, with the exception of Fire Walk with Me, because if I can be honest, Twin Peaks: The Return would take the #1 spot by a mile. So if you ever want a Twin Peaks video, let me know, because Lord knows I have plenty to talk about with it. But as always, let's get right into the video. Coming in our last place spot, as many will agree, is Dune. I always joke with friends that this isn't a Lynch film because he didn't have final cut, which is true. And after this film, Lynch always refused to not have the final say in his projects. And with this, you can tell. It is messy from start to finish and doesn't feel much like a Lynch film at all. Dune is, of course, based off the novel by Frank Herbert. This film features a large ensemble cast, some of which would down the road become more frequent collaborators on Lynch's projects. This is the most frustrating film in Lynch's catalog, mainly for what it could have been had a studio not barked down his back. Sloppy storytelling, poor acting. Really all this film has going for it is cool costumes and sets. After that, there's nothing really redeeming about this, which is a bummer. Lynch was never known for bowing down to a studio, famously rejecting George Lucas's offer to direct Return of the Jedi. So Dune overall just feels like an outlier in his filmography, which is real unfortunate because a space-themed Lynch film could have been something truly special. At the #9 spot, we have David Lynch's Palme d'Or winner, Wild at Heart. Now, while I do feel this film is very underrated, to me, the rewatchability of this film is just as low as Dune. I do own this on VHS and have wanted to throw it back in, but every time I decide I'm going to, I groan and put it back on the shelf. Is this film inherently bad? No. It is actually quite comedic, and it kind of feels like a Tarantino meets Lynch collaboration project. There's fun performances by Nicolas Cage, Laura Dern, and Willem Dafoe, but as I said, the rewatchability for this one just is not high for me. It's colorful, horny, hilarious, shocking, and violent, all of which led to poor reception upon release. While I do think this, like most of Lynch's filmography, was ahead of its time, the film just does not do much for me. Arguably Lynch's most grounded work, The Elephant Man is a historical drama biography loosely based on Joseph Merrick, a deformed man from London in the 19th century. It has phenomenal performances by both John Hurt and Anthony Hopkins. This film is a slow burn that pays off with John Hurt's painful line delivery as he pleads to an angry mob. I remember watching this back in January and just sobbing so hard that my roommate opened up the door to my room and asked me if everything was okay. While I absolutely do not hate this film, actually quite the contrary, in a filmography like Lynch's, I'm not exactly looking for realism. However, Lynch put this together very well, and it surely will break the toughest of people who claim they don't cry during movies. A tough watch, but one that gives you the ultimate payout and teaches you to be a better human in the process. Considered to be Lynch's most experimental work by the man himself, The Straight Story, which is a Disney film if I may add, tells the true story of Alvin Straight, a man who journeyed across Iowa and Wisconsin on a lawnmower to visit his dying brother. This is a very heavy-hitting film, which, as with The Elephant Man, will make you cry. I have watched The Straight Story a couple times since my large Lynch binge of this year. The Straight Story may not be the perfect film for me, but you have to applaud its realism and the emotional value of the film. Lynch's first feature film and breakthrough film, Eraserhead, tells the tale of a man who is left to care for his disturbingly deformed child in an industrial landscape. The sound design has been considered to be one of the film's most defining elements. What this film is about is a huge topic amongst moviegoers for ages. To me, I think this film is about the fear of being a father, or just a parent in general, I should say. I get that through the numerous sperm-shaped creatures, but also the iconic baby itself represents numerous traits and characteristics that would scare an individual away from wanting a child. Lynch, however, has noted as this being his most spiritual film. So who knows? There might be more to this than what meets our eyes. Kicking off our top 5, we have Lynch's neo-noir thriller Blue Velvet. This film follows a college student who returns home and discovers a severed human ear in a field, which leads him to uncover a criminal conspiracy involving a troubled nightclub singer. This film stars Kyle MacLachlan, Isabella Rossellini, Dennis Hopper, and Laura Dern. This film features some graphic, sexual, and violent content. This, like many of Lynch's films, would open to poor reception and would take a while before it would find itself a cult following. There's so much that can be looked into with this film. The severed ear, the fence with the roses, the ending, the nightclub, everything within this film has a double meaning. And that's the one thing I love about Lynch, is everything that he puts in his films or in his projects has a purpose. I'm not usually a fan of mystery thrillers, but Blue Velvet is something special in more ways than one. My hottest take of this whole list is that this film is not in the top 3 of David Lynch. Mulholland Drive is widely considered his best work and sits on most people's top film of the 21st century. And while I do agree that this film is phenomenal, it just isn't up there as my favorite. In the beginning, an aspiring actress arrives in LA where she befriends a woman who is suffering from some sort of amnesia after a car crash. The plot abruptly shifts later, with the actors taking on modified roles. This film follows several other vignettes and characters, including a Hollywood director who must deal with mob interference while casting his latest film. It still is a sin that Naomi Watts didn't get so much as an Oscar nomination for this film, and that David Lynch didn't win the Best Director Oscar. However, as highly as I speak about this film, it just is not my favorite. What many may misconstrue is what best and favorite mean, and that's something I'm big on. Is what's considered what's the best and what's the favorite is two different things. This is among Lynch's best, but as a favorite, unfortunately, it misses the top 3. Starting our top 3, we have Lost Highway, a film that feels oddly similar to the O.J. Simpson case. This film follows a musician who begins receiving unmarked videotapes of his home before he is abruptly convicted of murdering his wife. While in prison, he mysteriously disappears and is replaced by a young mechanic leading a different life. Lost Highway stars Bill Pullman, Patricia Arquette, and Balthazar Getty. This film features one of Lynch's most batshit endings, in my opinion. Aside from Twin Peaks Season 2 finale and of course, The Return, Twin Peaks. And Lost Highway is also, I would say, the creepiest David Lynch film. The Mystery Man is pure nightmare fuel. I remember feeling so tripped out watching this one for the first time, and man, it's definitely a ride, no pun intended. In second place, we have Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me. The film tells the story of Laura Palmer's final week alive. I will be super light here, as I don't want to spoil anything for the viewers who may not have seen this yet or are starting Twin Peaks and not quite at Fire Walk With Me yet. Fire Walk With Me, along with all of Twin Peaks, is just brilliant filmmaking at its best. This is one of the most mentally draining and depressing films I've ever seen. It just churns and churns, which leads into the brutal and sad third act. This, along with the entirety of Twin Peaks, is an essential watch for film lovers. Twin Peaks is absolutely one of the most influential pieces of media, and I have actually begun slowly rewatching it here and there, and I am just as encapsulated by it as I was the first time I watched it. Before I reveal my favorite Lynch film, I'd like to ask, what is your favorite David Lynch film? Or even better, what are your top 3 David Lynch films? I'm always down for a film discussion, so let me know down in the comments below, and just remember, once again, this is just my list. If I said something in here that's considered a hot take to you, I get it. But as always, tell me down below in the comments, what is your favorite Lynch film, or what is your top 3 David Lynch films? And coming in at our number 1 spot is Lynch's 10th and final feature film, which is also one of his most experimental films, I'd say. It is his batshit surrealist psychological thriller art film, Inland Empire. In this film, we follow the fragmented and nightmarish events surrounding a Hollywood actress who begins to take on the personality of a character she plays in a supposedly cursed film production. This film is an interesting film, not just in Lynch's catalog, but in cinema's history. Notably being filmed without a finished screenplay, which meant this was developed scene by scene, and it was entirely shot on low-resolution digital video off of a Sony camcorder. Now, of course, we've seen films like Sean Baker's Tangerine and 28 Years Later both be shot off iPhones. But back in 2006, this was unheard of. This is a powerful spiritual film that I think spoke to me in numerous ways. To me, Inland felt like a true escape that I really only felt with Twin Peaks: The Return. I just felt encapsulated by this film, and the more I sit on it, the more it just consumes me. I love the unknown, I love the unease, I love the torment, and the turmoil with this film. I love that nothing makes sense, while also being a coherent and easy to follow story. This is one of Lynch's most groundbreaking works, and I see this time and time again being disrespected and pushed off. Do I think a general audience would understand or even care much for this film, thinking that this is nothing more than a schizophrenic's daydream? No. But to me, this was a Lynch film that resonated with me more than others. I wish one day to see this in a theater with like-minded individuals, to not only say I've seen this on the big screen, but to feel all the emotions this film radiates with an audience, and to walk out silently with this film, haunting us for days, weeks, months, and maybe even years. January 15th of this year, Mr. Lynch said goodbye to the world. He left behind a beautiful array of art for us to cherish for the rest of time. Lynch, to me, will always be the best and most underappreciated artist of our time. In January of this year, I did my first true Lynch binge, and as I finished the last film on my list, I received a text from Carter about the shocking passing of David Lynch. For the first time in my life, I cried over a celebrity death. David Lynch isn't just any director who picked up a camera and told a story. No, Lynch was an artist at heart, who would make you feel, even when you thought you couldn't. We will never have an artist like him ever again. Good night, Mr. Lynch. Thank you for showing the world there's comfortability in weirdness, to think outside the box, and to cherish your creative ideas. Sorry for getting emotional. I wanted to share a quick update with you all. As I mentioned previously, I am going to begin uploading at least minimum once a week. And with that comes some exciting news. After sitting and thinking about ideas, I am beginning a weekly talk show on here called The Big Screen Banter. Once a week, I'll bring a guest on here and we will discuss a film for the week. I'm excited to announce the first episode of The Big Screen Banter will be uploaded sometime next week. And my friend, my brother, and frequent collaborator Aiden Regals will be joining me for my first ever episode where we'll be discussing Zach Cregger's 2022 hit Barbarian. I'm super excited to begin this series and to see what you all think. So if you have any movies that you want us to review on the Big Screen Banter, as always, leave them down in the comments below. This is going to wrap up today's video. As I mentioned earlier, there is no right or wrong list. This is just my list. So before you get angry and say mean or hurtful things, let me know what your favorite Lynch film, or the 3 favorite Lynch films as I mentioned earlier, down in the comments below. And as always, check out my letterbox, check out my Instagram. Thank you for joining me for another video. I cannot wait to see you all again.